Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So we are reading Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, which is entitled The Three Modes of Material Nature. And from here we have text 19. It's there on a board, so kindly repeat after me. Nanyam kunebhya kartaram. Nanyam kunebhya kartaram. Yada trashtanupashyati. Yada trashtanupashyati. Kunebhyascha param veti. Kunebhyascha param veti. Madbhavam sodhikachati. Madbhavam sodhikachati. Nanyam kunebhya kartaram. Yada trashtanupashyati. Kunebhyascha param veti. Madbhavam sodhikachati. Niin tuolla nyt on kavereilla suomennos, että jos joku tarvitsee tosiaan suomennosta, niin kyllä siellä yritetään antaa suomennos sitten. Okay, next please.
Nanyam kunebhya kartaram.
Nanyam kunebhya kartaram.
Yada drashtanupashyati. Kunebhyascha param veti. Madbhavam sodhikachati.
Nanyam kunebhya kartaram. Yada drashtanupashyati. Kunebhyascha param veti. Madbhavam sodhikachati.
Word for translation. Na. No. Anyam. Other. Kunebhya. Then the qualities. Kartaram. Performer. Yada. When. Drashta. The seer. Anupashyati. Sees properly. Gunebhya. To the modes of nature. Cha. And. Param. Transcendental. Veti. Knows. Madbhavam. To my spiritual nature. Saha. He. Adhikachati. Is promoted. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When one properly sees that in all activities no other performer is at work than these modes of nature, and he knows the Supreme Lord, who is transcendental to all these modes, he attains my spiritual nature. Purport. One can transcend all the activities of the modes of material nature simply by understanding them properly, by learning from the proper souls, The real spiritual master is Krishna, and he is imparting this spiritual knowledge to Arjuna. Similarly, it is from those who are fully in Krishna consciousness that one has to learn this science of activities in terms of the modes of nature. Otherwise, one's life will be misdirected. By the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, a living entity can know of his spiritual position, his material body, his senses, how he is entrapped, and how he is under the spell of the material modes of nature. He is helpless, being in a grip of these modes. But when he can see his real position, then he can attain to the transcendental platform, having the scope for spiritual life. Actually, the living entity is not the performer of different activities. He is forced to act because he is situated in the particular type of body, conducted by some particular mode of material nature. Unless one has the help of spiritual authority, he cannot understand in what position he actually is situated. With the association of a bona fide spiritual master, he can see his real position, and by such an understanding, he can become fixed in full Krishna consciousness. A man in control, and a man in Krishna consciousness is not controlled by the spell of the material modes of nature. It has already been stated in the 7th chapter that one who has surrendered to Krishna is relieved from the activities of material nature. For one who is able to see things as they are, the influence of material nature gradually ceases. Nayam kunebhya kartaram yada trasthanu pashyati kunebhyascha param veti madhavam sodhikachati. When one properly sees that in all activities no other performer is at work than these modes of nature, and he knows the Supreme Lord, who is transcendental to all these modes, he attains my spiritual nature. Om Gyanatimandasya Kenanjana Salakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langhayate Hirim Yatripatam Maham Bante Shri Gurum Dinadaranam Paramanam Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. So the topic of this chapter is modes of material nature. So we are influenced by the modes of material nature. There are 3 modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. And these modes of material nature are competing with each other, trying to take supremacy over us. And we are supposed to conquer them. We are, nevertheless, we are facing them all the time because we are consisting of a combination of these different modes of nature. Goodness is the highest one, is considered to be very auspicious. By the influence of goodness, real knowledge develops. Knowledge makes us happy and feeling free, very light-weighted. And then there is a passion, and greed develops through passion. Krishna explains these modes of nature in the Bhagavad Gita. So greed, there's lots of how you say, very passionate emotions involved. We want something which we don't have, and we are hankering for it, and then we lament for which we have lost. That's like a very natural state of existence for everyone, every living entity in this material world. And then there is ignorance. Uh, from ignorance, foolishness, madness, and illusion develops. We are through ignorance, we are getting deeper and deeper in the clutches of the material nature, and uh, we practically don't really know what we should do and what we should not do anymore. So these modes of nature is actually Vedic response to psychological matters. Uh, Materialistic scientists, they try to figure out the behavior of
Is everyone can? Or you could try if people are standing from there. If you just to squeeze a little bit in the front.
yes, you can come a little bit closer and squeeze a little bit if some other guests will come, they will have a little
Thank you
space.
so much. Yeah, and there is a speakers outside. If you have the kids, you can listen the class also in that room or here also. If they are disturbing, you can just go outside and listen to the class.
So the materialistic scientists, they are trying to figure out different individuals' behavior, what causes what, and why a certain person is behaving in a particular way, uh, what might be the cause for or her behavior. Uh, they are speculating like maybe some trauma from the his childhood has made the person like this, and therefore he's behaving in this way. Like, or there are genes from the parents. Like one really hilarious idea which I heard when I was younger. It was on the television. One smoker, somebody who was smoking a cigarette, was explaining that he didn't get his mother's best breast milk. That's why it causes him to smoke. Uh, well, as a matter of fact, I also didn't get my mother's breast milk, but I'm not smoking. I don't feel that kind of urge. Well, when you are young and you are not in a Krishna consciousness yet, you might test different things. So I was also testing, I have to admit. But I was trying smoking, but I never got that much addicted. So so this kind of research work is like doing some different experiments, and then you speculate, but they are based on kind of ignorance. These people who are making these judgments or conclusions, they have no idea about that there might be some inheritance from our previous lives. I mean, when I was a young seeker, I heard this term when I was more accepting the idea that we have lived many lives, and we have. So there was this statement that what we are now is the summary of our previous incarnations. So this this goes very well with the Bhagavad Gita verse 13:22, where Krishna explains that a person in this material world, he is life after life, he's becoming attached to certain mode of material nature, and then he will develop that desire according to this mode of material nature, trying to live according to that, or he has to live according to that particular mode, and so he is experiencing good and evil. Um, Good and evil through these particular modes. We are full of desires. We mainly desire what is pleasing to the mind, and then we try to avoid something that is displeasing. So we are accumulating this kind of a karmic bank account at the same time. Uh, so what we are now is a combination of our desire and our piety, our pious work from before. Like I remember we had one program in a city called Kouvola here in Finland, and Kouvola is situated uh, in an area where there are lots of lakes, big lakes in Finland. So this one of our lecturers mentioned that we may have a desire to have a big yacht in Caribbean Ocean, but I mean that's very opulent. We can sail here and there in a very warm climate and a very tropical environment. But if we don't have that piety, we may end up having a small motorboat in Saimaa Lake. Uh, so the desire is again there, but maybe the piety. Well, some people may prefer these uh, uh, lakes in Finland as a more exotic alternative to some heat waves of Caribbean area. But nevertheless, due to these three modes of material nature, we are experiencing our good and bad, our dualities, they come about. As I heard a lecture from Radhanath Swami when he was explaining uh, that one time he and a group of devotees, they were in Delhi, and then that particular time Delhi was very hot. The temperature was very hot, so they wanted to go somewhere where there is very a little bit cooler. So they decided they go to the north, and they ended up in Badrinath, and that's a little bit further from Rishikesh, Badrinath, Kedarnath. So they settled there, and because they were devotees, they went out on Nagar Sankirtan. They had a Harinam procession throughout the city, and he described that the demigods, they must have been very pleased for their Sankirtan performance, so they started to shower white flowers. Unfortunately, these white flowers were actually snowflakes, and they were very cold. And it was not only snowflakes; it turned out to be a snowstorm, and they were not prepared for that. They didn't have any blankets or anything, and the roads up there, they were stuck. They were full of snow. They tried to escape that situation, but the local uh, military party, they stopped their vehicles and said, "We cannot go. It's too dangerous." So they had to stay there in Badrinath. They didn't have any blankets or anything. So then they were thinking, oh, that warm climate in Delhi would be very nice now. So we are entrapped in this kind of dualities. uh, what, Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, Traikunya Visaya Veda, Nishtraikunya Bhavarjuna, Nirbandho Nitya Satvasto, Niryogakshema Atmavan. That the Vedas deal mainly with about the topic of three modes of material nature. But Arjuna should become transcendental to these modes and be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety. And therefore, Niryogakshema Atmavan, be established in the self. Self means the soul, trying to get rid of bodily body consciousness of life, bodily conception of life. So how do we do this? We can begin by cultivating the mode of goodness. Goodness is the best of all the modes, and that acts like a springboard to the transcendental platform. Then Srila Prabhupada, when he was leaving this world, he was in Vrindavan. He was lying on a bed, unable to do anything, except he was still speaking. He was giving last instructions to his disciples, and he recommended that his disciples should get rid of. He called the base qualities, BASE. Base qualities means passion and ignorance. Uh, Passion actually also it means kind of two things. Passion, you are very excited about something, you need to work very vigorously. But also, passion means suffering. Like yes, a former musician then know that there is a musical piece by Mozart composed uh, Requiem. What was it called? The Anyway, it was like a composition for. I think it was due to the suffering of Jesus Christ. So that was composition to glorify Him. Uh, and there's also wait a minute. Now I remember. It was in Finnish we call it Matteus Passio. So it was about one of the biblical characters, Matthew, and his suffering. And so in this way, passion means that we feel suffering in our mind and we feel urge to do something about it. So uh, so that keeps us moving, that keeps us very active. We try to counteract that suffering, therefore we have to act very vigorously. So Srila Prabhupada was requesting his disciples to keep Mangalarati going. Mangalarati is the first morning program in the temple, 4:30. So very early morning is considered to be or explained to be in a mode of goodness. So there are different things which are in different modes of material nature in this world, like times of the day. Very early morning is in a mode of goodness. It's very peaceful this time. Actually, I also remember when I was a music student and I was doing concerts in the center of Helsinki, playing in pubs. And especially in the summertime, our concerts went so late that I finally got to drive home like 3 o'clock in the morning. So in summertime, the sun has already risen, and there was practically nobody outside. It was totally peaceful, and it was very pleasant to drive back home. But as Krishna explains, that for materialists, the time of awakening is the time for going to sleep, uh, for a saintly person, time of going to sleep for a materialist is time of awakening. So that time I was driving home and going to sleep, but now I try to wake up at that time. This time part of the year, sun is up already very early, so we are competing with the sun, which is earlier to wake up. We for Mangalarti or the sun And also in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes that the different foods are in the different modes of material nature. Those are foods which are decomposed and very dirty to even touch, they are in a mode of ignorance. And foods which are pungent uh, and they are exciting the body, bodily functions, they are in a mode of passion. And those which are greasy, sweet, and pleasing to the heart, those foods are in a mode of goodness. Even it is said that mode of food in a mode of goodness must be consumed like within 3 hours after cooking. So after this Sunday feast program, we can experiment that. We have been cooking for you for the whole morning. I think the cooking is on the altar already, so we can consume this food before 3 hours has passed. And even in the charitable work is in different modes. Charity in the mode of ignorance is you give money to somebody who doesn't really deserve it, and it's against the scriptural injunctions. You go to the Helsinki main railway station, there are might be some bums asking money from you. And if you give them money, what do? They buy a bottle of beer, and that actually doesn't help the person. One time, my mother actually, she was at the Helsinki main railway station. She was coming from work, going back home, and one of those bums approached her and asked for that if she could buy him a ticket, train ticket. My mother was kind of clever, especially at this point. He asked, "Where are you going?" And this person said exactly the same place where my mother was going. So my mother said, "Okay, I will buy you a ticket." And then the person said, "Well," I was frustrated. "Don't you understand?" He said, so he wanted the money, not the ticket. So this is going on. Charity in the mode of passion is like you are expecting something in return. You are giving charity. There's a lot of money going on for example, for big sports events. I mean, we know these ice hockey teams are. Ice hockey is very popular in Finland, so there are some companies who are putting lots of money to them, or horse races and things like this. So this kind of charity is in the mode of passion, or a mode of charity in the mode of goodness. They are given to worthy person, some sage who is trying to spread the higher consciousness to the people in general, and for some spiritual work. We try to maintain this temple. We are happy to, if somebody wants to sponsor a Sunday feast program, so we can give sanctified food, karma-free food to all the guests, and this way everybody benefits. So this verse is saying that the material modes of nature is acting. All activities are performed by the material modes of nature. Yeah, there's a similar verse in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Prakrite kriyamana nikunai karman sarvasa ahankara vimudhatma kartanam iti manyate. which explains that the spirit soul is bewildered by the influence of false ego. The false ego is the first energy that covers the spirit soul, and false ego is making the soul identify with the body, and so influenced by false ego, the soul thinks that he is the doer of all activities, even though all activities are carried out by the three modes of nature. Now, if as I've been describing different modes, passion, ignorance, and goodness, you might understand that they are actually some subtle abstract things, abstract understanding of things. So how could they carry out anything like physically? But there's a elaborate explanation in the Srimad Bhagavatam about this, how we are connected with the modes of material nature. Kapila Dev in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is explaining how different bodily functions or different sections of the body, they are formed by these three modes. So he explains that the false ego, ahankara, in connection with mode of goodness, that compiles the mind. Our mind is thinking and choosing whether something is good for us or bad for us. So mind is happy when it's in a mode of goodness. If there's a lower modes of nature, passion or ignorance, then we can consider that mind is disturbed. So its natural position is to be in a mode of goodness. Then when the false ego is connected with the mode of passion, then intelligence develops. So intelligence is such an energy that it seemingly needs this kind of mode of passion because it needs to be very active in this way. And then ego in connection with the mode of ignorance, then all the more gross element they come about, starting from the sound. Sound is the most subtle of all the gross elements. Sound, and then all the other gross elements, sight, touch, taste, and smell. They are developing by the influence of mode of ignorance. What to speak of all the knowledge inquiring senses, active senses. They are all products of false ego in connection with the mode of ignorance. So how to get rid of from the influence of these modes of nature then? Kapila Muni further continues that the influence of material nature, as it is covering the living entity, thus the living entity seems to be always blazing in fire. But the process of seriously discharging devotional service, this influence can be removed, just as the wooden sticks which cause a fire are themselves consumed by it. So if we are in an influence of modes of material nature, we have a tendency to lord it over material nature. But if we are being connected with the Supreme Lord, who is also known as Nirguna, this in Sanskrit, these modes of material nature, they are called gunas. Guna means a rope, and nirguna means out of modes of material nature. So, so therefore, it's recommended that we have a spiritual master, like here in the purpose Prabhupada says, that somebody who is out of the influence of the modes of material nature. Such a person can help us. So, like in the beginning, we were announcing that one of our spiritual masters, Gopal Krishna Goswami, has left this world. Now, so this kind of persons can help us, and what he does. I saw a couple of posts in social media about his comment, which probably were he was stating these comments when he was in a hospital. That should I desire better medicines that I can live longer to help my disciples? And the answer was no. He wanted to give instructions to his disciples to more chant more attentively their Hare Krishna mantra, their japa rounds with the japa beads. So there's a way, a special way, specific way to get rid of the influence of three modes of material nature, and that is the chanting of the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. My lecture has gone quite a while now. It's again time for Arti. If there's any one short question, I will try to answer. Otherwise,
thank you very much for the lecture. I'm just wondering, because you said getting rid of free nature, and before you said that we should get mostly of the passion and the ignorance. We also have the ignorance, the blessing.
ignorance is a blessing. Ignorance is bliss, as they say. Well, in such a way, it can be blessing if it opens our eyes that now I have gone too far. I have to get rid of this. In that way, I could see that it's a blessing. But other than that, if we are in a proper knowledge, then we should try to avoid the lower modes of nature and lift ourselves to the mode of goodness. Mode of ignorance, you take narcotics, drink a lot of liquor, and be lazy just in the bottom of your bed and do nothing. That's a very nice description of ignorance. Then there should be some point that will be blessing if you finally understand, okay, this is enough. Now I have to get rid of this and do something. Then it might be a blessing as an eye-opener. All right, we can end here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai, Sri Prabhupada ki Jai.